schools, that is already hopefully the case.
It's a great pleasure to follow the Noble Earl, the Earl of Clancarty, and to rise to offer the Green Group's support to the bill put forward before us today by the Noble Lady Baroness Burt, who's given us such a powerful and clear introduction to it. I've got 4 reasons to express why I would support this bill. The first is time. We know in many other debates on education in your Lordship's House how much pressure our schools are under, the many ways in which they're forced to deal with the issues of today to prepare our young people for a difficult, fast-changing world. We need our schools to be preparing pupils for life, not just for exams. And whilst Assemblies might not be particularly focused on exams, this is a time in which we can do more of that education for life. And I would pick up the points of the Noble Lady Baroness Morris of Yardley, who suggested that taking away the current provision for Assemblies, I would point her to the fact that this bill does actually say, part of the bill is schools will be required to provide an inclusive assembly focused on spiritual, moral, social and cultural development. So that element is not being taken away by this bill. And I note the comments of the Noble Lady Baroness Burt that people expressed their first choice of what they would like to see in these assemblies was environment and nature, and focus on environment and nature. And we might think about how perhaps a local ecologist, a local nature group, might be invited to come in and speak to the school, engaging the school, making contact with the community. And that might also include spiritual reflection on nature, with practical education about nature, contact with nature, and think about how wonderful an assembly like that could be for a school community. I think also, as the Noble Earl just commented, the need for more culture in schools. Let's imagine a local theatre group invited into a school to perhaps, present a short play with a moral conundrum that can then provoke later discussion in class. That's the kind of thing that could be done with a whole school or part school assembly. One of my pet favourite things, let's have some education in first aid combined with a discussion on how everyone has an obligation to help others. Those are the kind of things we could be doing without this narrow current straitjacket of the law. My second argument is an issue of rights and freedom, and others have already noted how the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child has pointed out that the imposition of worship undermines children's rights under Article 9 of the Human Rights Act and Article 14 of the UNCRC. And I think it is really worth focusing on how important it is that we as a nation stand up for children's rights. And on an international stage, when we're failing to comply with our own obligations, that weakens our position as an advocate of children's rights around the world. Finally, my third point is inclusion. Parents or children who choose to step away from the current forced worship are separated out, are divided, and as the Noble Lady Baroness Morris of Yardley said, that splits children apart when we want to bring them together. And finally, a point of practicality. The law, the best survey we seem to have, and it's an imperfect survey, but the Times Education Supplement found that 53% of primary schools are not doing what they're apparently legally forced to do. Ofsted isn't enforcing it. We have an anachronism here, something that really means the law and practice don't coincide. Now, we, as a sovereign state in the world, have many curious anachronisms left in our constitution and our legal framework. This is one that we can both tidy up, but also bring in the possibility of something better, the kind of possibilities that I've outlined at the start of my speech.
My Lords,